All right, this is disturbing. A new message from a senior member of Al-Qaeda to the Libyan rebels on the ground. Keep up the fight against Muammar Gaddafi. Do not retreat, says this Al-Qaeda leader to the rebels. So how much do we really know about these rebels, and could they actually become a bigger threat than Gaddafi himself? These are the questions when you start getting these situations mixed up on the ground. Mike Baker's here, former CIA covert operations officer, to help us sort this all out. You know, that's disturbing. Obviously, you know, no matter what you say in this thing, we're on the side of these rebels. I mean, that's become pretty clear, right?
Absolutely.
And now, so Al-Qaeda and we're on the same side, I guess, in this.
Well, when you talk about, you know, whether this thing was ill-conceived or rushed into or not, this is one of the big questions, obviously. Who is the opposition that we're supporting? Right. And make no mistake, there's a big question mark there. What we do know is we know there's a lot of speculation about who makes up the opposition. So that could be indicative of the fact that we just don't have any hard intelligence about it. We know for a fact that Al-Qaeda has been active in the eastern part of Libya for years, and they viewed Benghazi and other parts of eastern Libya as a very fertile recruiting ground. So we know that they've been active there. We know that Libyan fighters have been picked up on the battlefields, or killed on the battlefields, or otherwise identified on the battlefields of Iraq over the years. So it's not a big leap to go from that to say that Al-Qaeda, which is always very opportunistic,
sure,
and tends to love chaos, they're active there. But the big question becomes, how much of the opposition do they make up? How much of the opposition is made up of extremists? And that's where it all becomes sketchy.
There's no doubt that there has to be a huge part of this rebel population, and they don't like being called rebels. They want to be called the opposition, you know, which is understandable. But that they would be unhappy with Gaddafi, and that they could, you know, normal folks who want to have a better life. But as you point out, whenever these situations happen, Al-Qaeda is going to be opportunistic in this situation. So, you know, then becomes the big question: how do we, you know, harness the good that could possibly come out of this in terms of forming a better government in Libya?
Right. Well, it's like herding cats. And, you know, the problem is, clearly we've made the decision, without knowing, you know, who makes up the opposition, we've made the decision that, well, that's better than Gaddafi. Because by virtue of what we're doing, we're saying, you know, we don't know necessarily who they are, but they got to be better than Gaddafi. He's protected us against
Al-Qaeda in that region, right? He was sort of the bad guy that was better than the other bad guy.
This is where it all gets so bizarre, is that for the past 7 years, ever since 2004, basically, he has been our guy. He has been an ally of ours. And now we're all in this muddled mess trying to say, well, but he's a terrorist. Well, you know, the past 7 years, he's been an ally. So how do we reconcile all of this? I mean, those are different issues. But the question that you're asking, you know, who is it that we're supporting? You know, honestly, you can't put them all under one label. So you do have the extremists. You do have Al-Qaeda elements trying to take advantage of this. No doubt about it. You've also got, you know, people genuinely interested in trying to come up with a representational government. You've got youth elements who are trying to replicate what happened in Egypt. You've got some secular elements, legitimately secular elements. But within all of that mess, you know, we don't know what's going to surface at that point where Gaddafi goes. The likelihood is that you're going to end up with a split. The western side of Libya is going to be under some more, cemented control by a military junta or a small council of military officers, probably not one strong man. They'll try to maintain control over what's going on in the east, but that will be a much more tenuous grip. And you've got a danger here, because it's such a tribal culture in Libya. You've got a danger here that once this chaos starts to happen, you know, we're not going to be able to walk that dog back and find some central government control for this country.
Yeah, there's a piece by Tom Friedman the other day called Tribes with Flags that basically said some of these are nations and some of these are tribes with a national flag. And that may be very well the case of what we're dealing with here in Libya to some extent. Absolutely. Mike, thank you very much. Always good to see you. Mike Baker.